Dick, how are you today? Tiki and Tierney, what's happening?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, man. Wahoo wah.
Good, yeah. Class of '93 here.
Yeah, I'm
The good old
97.
days.
Yeah, a couple years behind it. How did you end up
Nice.
in
The Virginia
baseball?
Yahoos. Very good.
Come on, it's Wahoo. Get it right. You started out I'm just reading your bio because I don't think I realized you were a UVA grad with me until I got this the seat from our producer. But you started in investment banking. What made you jump over to the baseball side of things? Was it a passion?
It was. I grew up. I did have a very non-traditional background for the baseball executives, but when I was growing up, my grandfather was actually involved with the Reds, so I was exposed to him at a young age. He was part of a group back in the late '60s that acquired the team and ran them through the '70s and sold out in the '80s. So I grew up going down to spring training in Tampa in the '70s and was exposed to baseball, but never worked in it. But I always had a passion for it, and I was a Cincinnati native, so they were always my team. And I grew up, went to UVA, got out in the business world, spent a bunch of years out there in Wall Street and Atlanta in finance, and fortunately got the opportunity to get back involved in baseball. So I moved home to Cincinnati late in '05, and here I am going into my 11th season now working in a front office.
That's not a bad team to get introduced to. A little Rose, a little Bench, a little Perez, a little Concepcion, the little George Foster in left field, Ray Knight. Wow, big red machine. That must have been a blast. And wow, so let me ask you this: you heard? I would imagine, Dick, part of the open as I was introducing you. And I wonder what the blueprint is for the organization with Votto, because that's a lot of money for a guy who's not a kid and a lot of holes to address. Now, you didn't sign him to that contract. You inherited. What's your game plan with that? How do you view his deal, which goes through 2024?
Well, honestly, big, long contracts like that are always a concern, especially for a smaller market team. But if I'm going to have a big investment in a player, I want it to be in a guy like Joey. He keeps himself in tremendous physical shape. He's a leader. He leads by example. He came up through our system. He's our most dominant hitter. And I think if we're going to rebuild this thing, you've got to have one or two pillars that you rebuild around. And Joey's the right guy from the offensive standpoint to be here for the long haul. He's embraced it. He's said all the right things so far this spring. He's excited for the challenge. He was here. It's not like we've never done this before. I came in '06, '7, '8, '9 were some bleak years building up to a run of success. 10, 11, 12, 13, we were in the playoffs 3 out of 4 years. And Joey was a part of that. He came up through our minor league system and was peaking, was just starting to hit his peak in those years. And he wants to do that again and be a part of it. So he's definitely a part of the plan for the future.
Yeah, there's a couple other guys. I mean, Billy Hamilton is exciting as hell because he's fast. I like the fast short guy because it makes me feel like I could have played the game. But what's the process? Is it through free agency? You're going to spend some money, or are you guys going to just build up the old school way through the farm system?
Yeah, it's going to be the old school way. That's the right way to do it, and we've already got a good jump on it. You mentioned the trades we did this offseason, but really this program started last offseason. We traded Latos and Simon. We got back two guys, Anthony DeSclafani, who's a part of our starting rotation now, and Eugenio Suarez, who's a middle infielder for us, probably moving over to third, but two starters we got back in that deal. Then we traded Leake and Cueto at the deadline and got back the pitchers from Kansas City, Reed, Lamb, and Finnegan. We got back Maya from the Giants. So we'd added a lot of talent already, and then when you add on top of that the return from the Frazier and Chapman trade, we've got the draft coming in June. We picked second overall, plus we were awarded a competitive balance pick after the first round. So we'll have 3 picks in about the top 40, 45 picks in the draft this year. We're going to be aggressive internationally. We've got one of the bigger pools to spend this year internationally by virtue of our record last year. So we've got a chance to inject a lot of talent back into the system. That's the way it's going to be in the short term. Maybe in a year or two I'll be spending in the free agent market, but that's probably not happening in the short term.
Hey, Dick, we only have about a minute here, but I have to ask you about Pete Rose. We all know that he's not going to be reinstated, but what is the organization stance towards him, and how involved is he going to be on game day at certain events, or is it just kind of what happens?
Sure. Well, the organization has extended itself. Pete's important, very important to the community and to the Reds fan base. I grew up in Cincinnati, so I understand it. And I've grown up with the frustration of Pete and the various opportunities
Yeah.
he's been given and squandered. And I think it's a shame that that's dragged out this long. What the organization does have plans to put him in our Hall of Fame this year, and we're going to honor him with a weekend. The commissioner has allowed that to happen, and I think that's a nice. I don't know if compromise is the right word, but I think it's a nice gesture by the commissioner to acknowledge that, hey, in Cincinnati, he means a lot to the fans. They can put him in their team Hall of Fame and honor him. He still won't be allowed to participate in on-field activities. He won't be allowed to be a coach. He won't be allowed to come to spring training.
Yeah.
But he does show up at the ballpark. He does watch games. He's passionate about the team, and at least for that weekend, he'll be able to feel the love from the fans of Cincinnati.